Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Fearless Now. Today's Fearless Now topic is the progression of education post-pandemic. We ran across a very interesting article or blog that Dr. Caitlin Tucker put out recently, and we thought it was worth us spending some time on it as it relates to some of the concept that she mentions and what we at Fearless are doing. I know that we've been coming to you for a few episodes now, and we're really going to start to unpack how Fearless is developing and why really we thought that this was important for us to develop. So Dr. Caitlin Tucker, she's a best-selling author. She earned her doctorate from Pepperdine University in learning technologies, and she was named Teacher of the Year in 2010. And she's been teaching for a very long time. So we thought, her current article on existing mental models that threaten post-pandemic progress in education was really poignant at this time. And some of the key points that she touches on are the way things are being taught, right? How the original mental models were focused on the teacher is the expert. Learnings happen in the classroom. Students move from class to class on a set schedule. Classes are composed of students who are the same age, and all students in the class should complete the same assignment. So that's sort of the existing mental model. And how do we break free from that and think about what is going to be helpful to the next generation as we see the future of work?
And there are many reasons why we enjoy reading this article, is because it doesn't happen often that people that are used to something, right, and that's where mental models come in, that they're willing to change. And it's very impressive that this very established educator, teacher is willing to openly talk about some of the mental models that might prevent the educational community from moving forward. So on the screen, what you'll see highlighted is a definition of what is the mental model. And when we think about quite a bit, what you can see is that it was only defined in 1988. So the mental models are deeply held assumptions, ideas, and images we have about how the world works. These mental models are often unconscious and are formed as a result of our life experiences. They have a powerful impact on the way we view the world and how we act in it. To us, that means is that if we pick up certain patterns from our parents, from the school that we go to, through education, through work experience, we develop those mental models. And it's not easy to change them because, as the Dr. Tucker highlights, some of this is unconscious. So Deepali, I think Doctor provides a very interesting perspective on how teachers looked at mental models before and how it's no longer relevant.
That's right. And I think, as Dr. Tucker really is advocating for a blended learning experience. And so I want to just kind of unpack that a little bit. So, we at Fearless started doing some research, not only as parents, but as, individuals that have built and grown teams of our own. We focused on leadership and even just sort of life skills. And when we think about the K through 12 education system and beyond, we started looking at sort of this compounding education system problem, right? And I think it's actually come to life a lot more post-pandemic, when we had to shift from in-person to virtual, have all the kids on Zoom, be technology ready, ability to sort of, be agile and change on the spot with the conditions that were happening throughout the pandemic. So, having said that, K through 12 education has really spent a whole lot of time on subject areas and too little emphasis on social, emotional, and leadership development, right? So when we look at that, we take it a step further and we go into the 4-year college model. And what does that mean in terms of the return on investment and producing work-ready graduates. And we started to see the compounding effect of this widening soft skills gap. And coming back to Dr. Tucker's article about, the mental models that were in place versus shifting that, and how do we kind of, future-proof that, right? We want to place students at the center of learning as opposed to teachers. We want to prioritize student agency and invite students to make key decisions, because that's what we're doing at work, right? When we're working in teams, we all have agency. We all have contributions to make. And a lot of those contributions are not just on subject matter expertise, it's how we advocate and communicate that subject matter expertise in order to move the ball forward. We also she talks about encouraging communication and collaboration among students, right? We're used to team collaborative environments in real life. Why shouldn't our students, think that way? And kind of going back to the third point on the compounding problem, we talked about K through 12, college, and then you enter the workforce. And what happens is you're trying to retrain that brain when that skills shortage becomes very real. And the need for soft skills to ensure a successful future has to start early, because that retraining effort is not only costly for corporations and leadership in general, but it's also a huge time commitment for the learner or the worker. So, we kind of see this divide, and we have to come back to this new mental model. But Mike, why don't you take it away in terms of, sort of advancing that conversation?
So I'll give you some numbers that we talk about quite a bit. And as much as, so my background is technology and I like reading sci-fi. It's only in the last 3 to 4 years that I started really following people like Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil and their thinking. And it's not just theirs. Google supported something called Singularity University. That's the organization that is focusing on educating enterprises as well as countries on what is digital transformation means to them. What is that concept of singularity means to all of us, like as humans. And the idea is that the technology evolution is happening at the exponential rate. So if we were to consider what happened in the last 100 years, right, from the 1921 to 2021, and thinking about like what happened between 1921 and 1960s, like when we sent somebody, when we sent humans to the moon, and then what happened in the last, let's call it 5 years with SpaceX and civilians being in space. Like we can really, like if you think about it, you can really see the exponential growth that we're going through in technology. There are numerous studies from Dell and the Future Institute that we keep referencing in our posts. 85% of the jobs that will be required in 2030 have not been invented yet, right? And it's a very, like it's a not an easy thing to even consume, right? And think about it, because we talk about this, like in the beginning, it took us a couple of seconds, as much as we think about the future, to say, yes, that makes sense, right? And we read the report and there's plenty of evidence. The other set of numbers that we talk about is that pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, out of 100 kids, only 69 go to college. And out of 69, only 50% of them, so let's call it 35, will graduate. What's more is that within 2 years, only 25% of professionals are working in the field that they graduated from. Mm-hmm. So the concept and the idea, like, are the colleges still relevant or something needs to change? That's been a pretty big topic even before pandemic, and now it's becoming even more relevant. Yeah. Between the fact that you have to learn on the job, and this article talks about the mental model of teachers where they would present the material and students would have to absorb it and not ask questions and not talk about it. Like, we all as professionals know that that's not how work gets done. It gets done in a team where there's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of inclusion and diversity that you want as part of this team, so that there is a civil conversation, not a debate, not an argument, but a debate about certain things, and then you make progress. That was not the part, and from what we understand now, that's still not a part of high school or college.
Yeah, and I think that's where, as we have started to introduce some of these concepts, we truly believe that there is a way for us to step in and do something about this and really be drivers of change when it comes to long-term mental model change, right? And if leaders and teachers value communication and collaboration among students, the mental image that comes to mind when we think of classroom is going to include chatter and noise and movement and flexible seating and all of it. And by the way, this is played out, right? Google has these offices where you can slide down, a slide and, have free time to think or put earphones on and go in your flow state. So the point that we're trying to say is that we want to impact change. And the way we think of Fearless is that we want to reshape the way young people prepare for the future, right? That is our playbook. That is what we've set out to do. And we know that change, it takes a community. It takes a lot of people to kind of buy into this concept to understand where the puck is going. And I think there's a lot of truly great educators, leaders, technologists, and so on that are dedicated to this change. When you think about Peter Thiel and when you think about Silicon Valley and how their approach is to education and kind of skipping out on college and doing these boot camps and revolutionizing technology, that's where this is all stemming from. And change is hard. Change can be slow, but the speed in which we are moving, we really need to expedite the conversation. And lastly, I'll just say that, our firm belief is that learning is social, not solo, right? And so that's how we live our daily lives. And I think that that's where we at Fearless want to reshape how these young people really prepare. And that's what we're focused on.
So we'll end, I'll end this on my side with a bit of a personal story. So I was a information systems, computer science degree in Stony Brook University. There was not a single assignment. This was probably 20 years ago, but there was not a single assignment where you had to work as a team. And I'm checking in with recent graduates from computer science degrees, and they're saying that there's a bit more of that, but far in between. And the idea is that I cannot think of any accomplishment of a human that was not supported by the team or did not work in a team. Doesn't matter if it's a Nobel Prize winners or Elon Musk of the world, you need to work with people. And somehow, high schools and colleges do not teach that. Like we had a fantastic expert panel with 2 doctors. Bedside manners are not taught as a class in the medical school. You learn them from the person that you are doing that apprenticeship or the
residency.
Right? That's not reasonable.
Right.
We look forward to the conversation. Please make sure to visit FearlessPlus.com, sign up for this newsletter. We will keep you updated on all of these interesting topics, and we will keep you updated on what's happening with Fearless.
Thank you very much, and have a fearless day.
Have a fearless day.